Hello, this is the TradeSight U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview for the week beginning Monday, the 5th of May, 2014, ending Friday the 9th. We had a good trading week. We certainly did here in stocks on TradeSight's side. Friday was a little slow, but the rest of the week gave us opportunities. We still had a reasonable winner right off of our report in the Taser short on Friday. This last week was bogged up by a couple things. Number one, we had the Fed meeting, the two-day Fed meeting. Number two, the Fed meeting itself, the announcement was on the last day of the month, so you get month-end window dressing. And number three, you also had Friday the non-farm payroll unemployment rate data, which the market often waits for and didn't actually react much to. So overall, we had a lot of things that we were holding off for going anywhere. And so Monday was good, but the rest of the week, from the market's perspective, just the indices themselves kind of flat, as you'll see, but some of the individual stocks still moved enough each day to get us going. So here's a look at the S&P daily chart. Not much going on here from the perspective of movement. But if I flip this up to the weekly, let's take a look and see what we see. The weekly doesn't show you what the futures show you. And if I go to the front month futures of the ES, this is the S&P futures, what you're going to get here. Oh, I'm sorry. The weekly does show you on the daily chart. I have to put it in projection mode. When I go to projection mode, there's your 13 sell signal. We completed here Friday of the week. We have a sell signal on the ES. Now keep in mind, on the weekly chart, we had one back in March of 2014, and we also had one here in July or August of 2014. Both got shrugged off by the market, which has been so strong. But every time we get one of these, we have to pay attention. And even if you look at the one last year in July or August, we did sell off for about a month. So that gives you the signal. It will be interesting to see what it does this time. So we'll be watching that. And now let's also take a look at the NASDAQ daily chart, NASDAQ 100 index. Obviously, this is down a bit over the last few weeks. You'll notice that there's been nothing close to a 13 count since back in December here on the index on the daily. And if I flip this up to the weekly, we're only 5 bars into the count as well. So not so much a signal on the NASDAQ side as you get on the S&P side. Here's a look at the SOX. The 13 sell signal there back at the beginning of April. We sold off since then. There's a look at the NBI. That's the biotech sector. As go banks and biotech, so go the market. It's been selling off and hasn't had anything near a count in the entire what you can see here on the chart on the daily. It's had some 9-bar startup phases, but no exhaustion signals. Let's look at the action on some of the key stocks that we trade. Amazon did rally a little bit this week. Let's take a look at Apple, another one that's been up lately since they announced the stock split. Basically, look how flat this week was on Apple. Look at the 4 days. So once it got up on Monday, it's just been dead flat ever since. Here's a look at Google. We had a nice Google trade this week, but overall didn't do too much. Here's a look at Tesla. And we do like to trade Tesla, but there wasn't too many opportunities here. We had some Twitter stuff going on. Twitter made new lows at one point this week for the stock, and we've told the story of Twitter many times, so no need to regurgitate it here. And we'll look at Netflix, and then we'll move on. Here's a look at Netflix. Got a big pop this week. All right, so that's what the daily charts show in terms of the indices. That's what some of our big trading stocks are doing. Let's go now and take a look at the futures from this last week in 10-minute bars, just so you can get a picture of what this last week actually did. So this is Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, going backwards, and then the last little bit of last Friday. So Monday we gapped up, filled very quickly, pushed higher, dropped lower quite a bit, shot back up for the close. Pretty good trading day on Monday with all that movement. On Tuesday, however, going into the Fed meeting starting, and we know this is going to happen, usually does, little gap up, took about an hour to fill it exactly, then we rallied back up. We got a 13 Comer sell signal about 2 hours into the market. That was the high of the day. Overall, very flat, didn't trade close to average daily range. Wednesday, little gap down, filled it immediately, pretty flat until the Fed announcement, and then we wiggled a bit and came back up a little bit, but overall, not much movement. Did not even trade average range on Wednesday. Thursday, flat opening and a flat day. Disappointingly flat day, because this was the first day of May. We were beyond the Fed, beyond all the earnings, and beyond the GDP number came out this week as well, and we were beyond the end of month. So we thought Thursday might get us going. It didn't really. We got one push up about an hour in that gave us a nice play in CELG, but other than that, it's pretty flat, tough to trade futures in that environment as well. And then Friday was kind of the opposite. Wiggled around a lot early and then finally got a downside move. What's interesting about Friday, though, is keep an eye on this chart here. And obviously, we fizzled out in the afternoon and didn't do much. Volume was weak on the NASDAQ, only 1.7 billion shares on Friday. But if we keep an eye on this chart and then flip over to the NASDAQ side, if you try to compare, NASDAQ side was actually weaker Friday morning, while the ES side tried to make new highs. The NASDAQ side failed. And so anyways, all we did by holding up where we did, by the way, is you had to get a close higher than the prior week's close on the ES to get you that weekly sell signal. So remember, in a weekly time frame, we do have a sell signal, and we're going to be watching that now. It doesn't mean, of course, that Monday the market's just going to plummet, but it means that there could be a directional shift here, and we're going to be keeping an eye on that. Here's a look at the NASDAQ volume. This is the first week of 2014 where all 5 days were below 2 billion shares. And you can see we've brought the 10-day moving average of that volume down to the lowest point of the year and into the ranges that we saw last year. So hopefully this is just a fluke and we can get going again with some better volume, because we all know that better volume equals better trading conditions, and you got to keep an eye on that at all times. All right, let's take a look at the economic data that's due out this week. On Monday, ISM services 30 minutes into the market, not a big deal. Tuesday, trade balance, big number before the bell, could cause a gap. Wednesday, MBA mortgage index, preliminary productivity for Q1, unit labor costs, crude oil inventories an hour into the market, and consumer credit in the afternoon. None of that's substantially important. Thursday, initial and continuing jobless claims, that's the weekly number. Natty gas, Friday, wholesale inventories, and JOLTS job openings. The trade balance is the big one. ISM services can be important as well. Other than that, like I said, there's nothing here. So if to the extent that sometimes the market gets held up waiting for news that's due out the day after, or waiting for the end of month a couple days beforehand, things slow down, or waiting for the Fed during a 2-day meeting and things can get slow, none of that's here. So if we're slow, we're still slow, but the type of things that typically hold us up are not here this week. So it'll be interesting to see what we get. We will be in the lab as usual, making trade calls and helping you try to make money. Have a great weekend and a great trading week.